my husband left me, it was about, probably married about 15 years before he found someone else. And poor lady, used to get bashed around. I was a sick person, but never realised in Alice Springs you don't get much medication or medical advice up there because it was very isolated. And they didn't know what was wrong with me at the time. Then we became cub leaders, my husband and I, and started the first cub pack in Alice Springs. We used to go on outings with them and take them on outings. And we went out to Hart Range, which is about 100 or so kilometres out of Alice Springs, and I had a breakdown there. It just set my brain off. I don't really know. It was a strange thing, and ended up in 8 days in hospital in Alice Springs, and they just put it down normally as depression and other things like that. But when we moved, after so many years, we moved down in 1980 to, I did, sorry. My husband, as I say, was separated. He went down and continued doing opal mining in Cooper Pedy. In Cooper Pedy, and I came down. We had already bought this house in 1978 or something. We bought it, and it was about a year old when I finally came down. It was a hard thing to get down here and find a repossession notice on the doorstep. So I had to work. Lucky I'd had some money, a couple of thousand with me. So I fought for he was supposed to be paying the house payments while I paid the house, the keeping and all that sort of thing, and he hadn't been paying it. So they finally let me withdrew the the repossession notice on the house, and then I decided as a single person to. One of my sons stayed in Alice Springs, and two of them, my daughter and other son, came down with me. So Peter was still at school, but Lorraine had been working, so she got herself a position and continued working. And then I worked with the disability of my illness, which caused a lot of rift for me at work. It was just that I was a good worker. Is the only reason I kept my job, because my attitude stunk. And then it was quite a few years. I don't remember much because with my sickness it sort of blocks out anything else. But I was hit by a motor vehicle in the valley, hit by a car, not in the car, but I was hit on the road on a car, and ended up in hospital. And with everything else I had, that set me back quite a lot. Not in the way of working or anything like that, but I couldn't cross roads. I was crying and I couldn't do this and do certain things. And that is when I went to see, the hospital actually, when the hospitals wanted me to see a psychiatrist, but they were booked out. So here they put me on to Dr. Spellman, who I was with for 10 years, every week for 10 years. And he diagnosed the borderline personality disorder, which answered a lot of questions. But at that time, because my mind was I didn't really realise what was wrong with me. I didn't need to get any maintenance, and that I went, decided, that's right, my husband was going half of the house and everything. And so I then had to appear in court, and I was lucky that, first of all, I went for a loan. No, that was afterwards, so I went for a loan for the house in my own name, which at that time was very hard to fight for. But I was lucky I had a very nice gentleman that worked at Metway, which is now Suncorp, and he couldn't see why I couldn't buy the house. Keep paying the house, because I could prove that I'd been paying it for about a year by myself. And then So he gave it to me, which was lucky because I had rang up a couple of weeks later and asked for something, and Perry had gone, and the fella in his place said, "Oh, I don't know how you got it in your name." Meaning that it's a shame for a woman, getting a loan, because it also entailed the money I owed my husband that he was allotted for so much of the house. But that was all over and done with. I was a credit controller, which I surprised everyone because of the situation that my sickness and all that, and the things that it caused, but it did help me to keep my work. But I was always ostracised for my attitude, ostracised for this and that, not listening to anybody, but I got the money in for the company, so that was what kept me going. When it come down to my family, my daughter and the two boys went through hell with this disease. It gets you that way that you can't think yourself out of situations, so the worse it gets in an argument or something like that, you just go crazy. And the first thing was to grab for a knife, threaten to kill myself, go for throw things. Many plates I broke, and a lot of different things. You'd go away and hide in a corner. Yes, it's a disease that when I finally found out what it was, I was happy to have a name to it, but it still didn't help me in the line, because counselling, I went to so much counselling, but because I'm an independent, my situation is very funny because I'm a complex person. I can put up with all that thing, and I seem to come back on top, but that was my family. I made, for nine years, I made my family my being. I never, sought relationships outside with men or anything like that, because my family was my life, which not made it hard, but anyhow, as I said, I went to the psychiatrist, and he had labelled it and that, but because of me not thinking, and then he was taking a lot of drugs with him, and which made me worse actually, because it was a whole lot of drugs. My daughter actually, sort of stopped that. I think she more or less talked me out of leaving him. I think we were just more or less after 10 years was just somewhere to go and talk, and and have somebody to talk to. Yeah, and then about 15 years ago, I got the dreaded disease of gambling, and it's all I needed. And to this day, I can't remember, because I was a bookkeeper, but a credit controller. I used to hate losing money on anything, even $5 when I first started to go. And then it got that bad that I was doing all my pay. Wednesdays I'd go any club on the way home, any venue on the way home, and just could have put in $1,000 and lost the whole lot. Which that went on, and in meetings that we had, I just couldn't understand how I still had hold of the house and everything. And because, as I said, the house was meant to be mine, because of the repossession notice and fighting to keep the house under my name on a loan. But I continued on, and the family went through a lot. I have a son who has blamed me for everything. My son became a drug addict. He's a severe drug addict. Then he had a serious road accident, which nearly cost his life. So between that, they went away and never spoke to me for 10 years. He blamed me. He blamed me for everything that happened to him. I didn't give him the drugs, but he did blame me, which was upsetting. I only see him every now and again. My grandson is his carer, and he won't let me see him. Now and again we'll go for a dinner or something. But I was at work one day and I got a phone call from the psychiatrist at the Redlands Hospital to say that he had threatened my life. He was in hospital under care for 3 weeks. So that was a shock because I was at work that day that phone call come. The police were maintaining vigilance along the way, but he states that, but every time I see him, which is not often, he says, "Oh no, it's not your fault, Mum," but then he'll say to somebody else, he'll blame me for what happened in his life. And that took me back with, with all that. And what I can't understand it a lot, and I've said to counsellors, that people think I'm a strong woman. And I can't find that where that strong has come from because of everything that's happened to me. But I have come, since I retired, the gambling, get back to the gambling, it became very bad. Nearly lost my whole family through it. I was under Gamblers Anonymous to Relationships Australia run that. So I've seen many a counsellor there, and it just never registered. Because of, I don't know whether it was my independence or my will to survive for the kids, but many a times I'd leave the clubs and I just want to drive into a tree. I used to curse myself because my family wouldn't do it because my family, which is all this part of this. I got into a singles group, and they say your sexual fantasies come into this borderline personality too. And I'd lost a lot of weight then, and 48 I was, so I became a bit of a chase around sort of thing, which was strange. And then I did meet someone who has been a good friend, even though we've been not talking and talking. We lived together for 6 years, Mike. He was a lovely fella and still is a lovely fella. And we don't live together now, but he's been a good friend for 26 years now. So I am still battling the things to go gambling, which is very hard, and that's why I'm back into, I have a counsellor now that I'm going to from Relationships Australia, and she is a specialist. Her forte is borderline personality disorder, so she knows all about it, and she's the only counsellor I ever had has said that, that's her forte, and she's very interested in. So I think I'd make a good case for her. And now, as I said, 73 years old, I live in the house, hope to stay here till I pass away, which, if it's like my mother, she lived to 101. There were 6 of us in my family. One has passed away now, so we have got. I have got good brothers and sisters, and one's got dementia now. So there's lots and lots of more things that I haven't gone into. But the worst thing about it is that, as the counsellor said, you will block a lot of your life away because you don't want to talk about it, or it upsets you or something like that. But some days I get depressed, I get anxious, but not having the stress of work, I think, has helped all that. I think having the stress of work and having the stress of the disease and stress of everything else is, and not having that big stress at work because I couldn't, I felt awful when I was rude to people. I felt awful chastising the temps that come to work for us, and I was a bitch. But the question was, and the answer was there, which I didn't know for half of my life, what exactly it was. Now you can even Google it and see what it entails, and everything fitted into my life as to what,
What when it comes to gambling and you're putting all of your pay in one time, what feeling comes to make you want to do that, and then the feeling
To
obviously
win
of
more.
regret after? To win more.
Yeah, to win more, get more money, to be able to pay, do what you want to do. But once it's all gone, that's it. You walk out, and your first thing is, oh, I just want to drive up a tree or over a cliff or something like that. It's terrible. It's a
But what makes you keep going back for that?
that I think because of this disease, that is part of it. So there's no relevant reason, because it's not social, because I don't talk to anybody there. It's just like you're standing in front of you. Like Mike said to me one day, he stood behind me talking to me for quite a while one day down the club, and I just I didn't know he was there because he didn't come with me. He'd come in and he said, I've been standing here for 10 minutes or more and you didn't even know I was here. And that's what it's like. It's just, but you still go. I don't know, yeah, it's a hard way to go.
So obviously you were married and pregnant as a teenager.
Yes, 16.
So you never really got to know who you were as a person without anybody else.
Well, yeah, that's right. I didn't, even though I was... Geordie, you can go back... Oh, sorry. I was going to say, go back and do his... Yeah, it's because of my disease, a gambler will know better than I why they go there. But because of the disease and the urge to win more money, which after these so many years, it's ridiculous because I never did. I think the most I ever won was 7,000. You put it straight back in. So, yeah, I used to hate it.
Who are you?
Who am I? Well, my name's Collette Halse. I live for my family. I love my great-grandchildren. Well, I love all of them, but, growing up with the great-grandkids now is... I think I'm lucky. I know I'm lucky for a 73-year-old woman to be able to do this, be so close to them, because a lot of them have got kids all over the place and no one near them. So I know I'm lucky. But yeah, it's hard to say. I could never make that to a counsellor when they asked, who are you? And I just feel that I'm a woman that's, as you say, there's many more out there of us that went through having a child that were pregnant at 16, married at 16, and lost track of train of thought.
Did you get married for love, or did he marry you because you were pregnant?
That's another thing I don't know. Well, we were together for a year before I did fall pregnant, so there must have been a little bit there. There's a tragedy of my life too. I've never been loved, because I don't think he loved me. He could have at the beginning. I don't know. Who knows at 16 and 18? He was only 18. And who knows, especially someone with my, disability sort of thing. And Mike, I think it was just convenience, and he wanted to get, a woman, and he could have loved me. I mean, he must have, I think, because he went through a lot too with me. But I don't feel myself that I've ever been loved by a person. Loved by a person. Always felt that.
And is that because of your lack of self-worth?
I think so. I've got a complex. I hate myself. Always hate myself. I can't look in mirrors. Yeah, all that. But yes, the self-worth, I think, has got a lot to do. As my boss said to me, Annette, which was true. She said to me, she was leaving, and she said, Collette, watch your back, because apparently the bigger boss was trying to get rid of me, actually, because of my attitude. So I had a few people there, and yet people think I'm in a craft group now with 8 of us, and we all think the world of one another, and they think if I ever talk about it. They can't believe that I've gone through what I've gone through or got what I've got. So, you know, and I used to hate having compliments. I used to hate people complimenting me on anything. And it was always like walk. I used to walk, I decided I'd lose 30 kilos once, and so I used to walk down to the Wellington Point shopping centre and back every morning.
And what time in the morning?
Well, sometimes it was 4 o'clock, in between 4 and 6. And my challenge was that no one could get in front of me. I had to be that person in front. If there was any people, I'd walk faster and faster and faster, which I can't do now because I had both my knees replaced. So I've had knee replacements and I can't walk very, so far. I only had them done the last 2 years.
What was it like being in the Redlands and doing that walk, and what was the community like each morning?
Very good, as a matter of fact, you'd be up the shop and someone, oh, you're the lady that walks every morning. And this sort of thing, and I felt something, I felt that it was something, You'd say hello to the people. I'm not a very good conversationalist or make friends easy. But people don't. I know that, but people don't. They wouldn't think I am. People that have known me all the time, because once someone strikes up a conversation, they can't shut me up.
I was going to say that you don't stop.
Yeah. But yeah.
So what has the Redlands meant for you?
The Redlands I love. I would never go anywhere else. Our friends up in Halse, they were from not the Redlands, but they were from Morningside. Lived at Morningside. They were an older couple at the time when we were, and they were in Scouts as well, and they were moving back, and so my husband and I were still together then, so he came down and looked around and found the block of land, and we built the house, and but then we separated while we still had it, and he stayed up there, and I came down with, like I said, 2 of the kids, and I've loved it ever since. I just do. I wouldn't live anywhere else, but and I have met so many people, and my daughter has made a name for herself with her Fairy Rain, which I'm very proud of her. 2 of my granddaughters have their own businesses, which I'm proud of. The other 2 are working. One's a nurse. So it's I'm very proud of them. And now the great-grandchildren are, the oldest is 13 and at high school. So, yeah, I'm very proud of what they've become.
Why do you collect stuff and make so many things?
I can't really answer that, but I know it does make me feel better inside. I love to see the results of things, with the succulents and things like that, and yeah, it could be part of my sickness, I don't really know, centric, but it helps me see, on the garden. It gets me out of the house and something to do and all that sort of thing. But yeah,
what do you want to be remembered for?
Well, definitely not my earlier part of life, that's for sure. Helping my family get through their lives, because I have done that with the house, because my daughter lived here with her 4 girls, and now I have one of her girls live here with her 2 boys, and I'm seeing them being cared for and looked after, because their mother is a single woman raising the 2 boys. So
what was it like experiencing one of your children or your grandchildren going through a terrible marriage, but also through sexual abuse and the type of thing.
Well,
What
I
was
forgot
that?
about that, didn't I?
What was that like?
That was, again, the strong person came at me. Like, I went all the way to Alice Springs. My daughter was about to start up with her husband, who was the abuser of the children. And I was suffering down here while they were in Alice Springs. I couldn't hug them, cuddle them, or anything like that, just talk to her on the phone all the time. And then the oldest daughter, who was 14 at the time, had told the counsellors up at the school that she was sexually assaulted. And all hell broke out then. And so she was stuck up there with all this by herself. And I flew up on a two-way, not one-way ticket, two-way. And to the four children, I brought them back. I brought them back together, four of us and me. We came back on a bus for 2 days. I was on the bus 2 days with four children, which was a bit hectic. And my daughter flew back on the return ticket a few days later. But I got very angry because he was doing it in my house, and I was upstairs while the bastard was doing it. I went through hell with that. Yes, that was, and then it went through court, and my granddaughter was under the docks, and trying to get her life back together again, and yeah, so that I did feel very much so, because I did learn that my husband done the same thing with my daughter, so I've had my daughter do it through it and my grandchildren through it. So yeah, it's very angry.
And what type of world do you want for your grandchildren? Or your great-grandchildren?
Great-grandchildren, I would love to, hoping they get a good job. If they not good enough to go to uni or anything like that, I hope they get an apprenticeship or something that they like and get what they want in life. The same as I've sort of helped all the grandkids along the line. But as I said, Lorraine lived here with her 4 girls on a cheap rent, and which helped her get on her feet and meet a nice man. So she's comfortable in her life now, so I'm good with that. Accomplished that. The 4 girls now have all got, 3 girls. 3 of the 4 girls have got partners, which are very nice. I've got a lot of time for the 3 of them. So, yeah, most of it so far is because my rest of my great-grandchildren are only young. So I just hope they have a healthy and happy life.
What's your favourite part of the Redlands?
Famous part of the Redlands would be... That's a hard one because there are so many lovely places in the Redlands. I would probably say Wellington Point. I think it's the best point out of all of them. Or Cleveland. Yeah, but I'll definitely say Weller Point. Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, except that I hope to stay in this house until I passed away, because I love it so much. And so far, my mother lived in her unit till she was 95. So if the genes had passed through to me, then I hopefully could still be here and be a great grandmother. But yeah, just my one thing, especially now retired, is to hope my family get what they want and are happy while doing it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the project and telling us your story. Thank you.
Thank you.